Well, it's 6 in the morning. I'm supposed to go to work, and luckily I woke up to dripping water and noticed it, but it appears I've blown a seam on the 40-gallon breeder. Luckily, I do have a backup 40-gallon. I was going to use it for a sump build, so I'm going to work on transferring all the contents, the live rock structure, and I'll probably transfer the frags into my frag system, and hopefully I'll be able to get a tank drilled today. I do not have a bit, so that's going to be my main struggle, and I'll be able to get this set back up. So I'm pondering on what to do here. I got the water drained down about halfway. The leaking has stopped. I don't know if it's due to leak of pressure. I definitely checked all the bulkheads to make sure that wasn't what's leaking. So now I'm removing the bulkhead fittings. Unfortunately, I have these elbows glued in, so I'm seeing if I'm going to be able to reuse these bulkheads, as I may not be able to find some bulkheads today. I'm going to try to just go see if I can get this back up to 40 breeder drilled and silicone this same weir back in. So the question is going to be if this nut makes it around this elbow. I'll be able to cut the PVC lengths. I don't think it's going to fit. About to find out here. Nah, of course not. So I'm gonna have to get some new bulkheads too. Not good. Not good. Okay, a little further in the process here, I've broke loose all these acan colonies and a few acros from the glass. I got a 40-gallon breeder here on some foam on the floor. Kind of in a rush to get the acro submerged to reduce the stress. Alright, it's gonna be fun. Got the tank off the stand, had to cut the pipes. Got it outside. I'm gonna check to see where it was leaking. Everything in a backup 40. Got a little heater in here and a power head for circulation. Hopefully this will get me through the time I need to re-silicone and overflow and let it cure. So I have it filled up here in my backyard, and it's really picking up. It's gushing out somewhere in the bottom. So one of these bottom seams inside failed. Yikes. So guys, I got the tank out there just to make sure it was leaking from a seam. I was kind of paranoid possibly it was leaking from an overflow or the plumbing, and I just didn't realize it because I was half asleep when I started this process. It indeed was leaking from a bottom seam. I'm not exactly sure where. So I got it cut out here. I did have two backup 40-gallon breeders I was going to use for sumps. I got everything in here, all the corals and the 3 fish. Got a small heater and some circulation going. I'm really debating whether I should transfer the rock structure into this 80, kind of disperse the fish amongst, other aquariums. I also have this hospital tank set up, luckily. Or should I go ahead with drilling a breeder? I did plan on eventually upgrading to a 300 or maybe a 200, something that would fit in this area here. So I'm really gonna have to sit on this for a little while because I'm not too sure which direction I'm gonna go. Alright, well, I got the overflow box removed. There's many years of buildup in there. Note to self, I should definitely clean this out once in a while. Still not sure what I'm going to do. I'm thinking more ghost overflow at this point. So one thing I'm going to do differently this time is put some 1/4-inch yoga mat underneath. That may have helped contribute the bottom seam bursting on the 40. I just went to an outlet store and got a mat for a few dollars. Alright, I've done some shopping. I managed to find a 2-inch diamond hole saw. For a 1-inch bulkhead, you're supposed to use 1 3/4, but I couldn't find one today. So the seal on the gasket's going to be minimized slightly. I have my holes drawn and some flow. I'm not going to be able to film this process. Wish me luck. It's pretty straightforward. I got all 3 of my holes started before I finish them all the way through. First hole was a success. Now for 2 more. I'm on the 3rd and final hole here. Feeling confident enough that I'll do a little drill shot. Nice clean holes. Ready to go on the yoga mat. Okay, tank's in place. Time to do some plumbing and get this system back running. Alright, it's halfway through the day. I got the tank in place. Most of the plumbing is finished. I'm going to let it dry for a little bit. I wasn't able to fit the street 90s, the elbows, into the bulkhead. So I kind of have it rigged here. I'm going to wrap some liquid thread tape around the pipe and just kind of have it dry fitted. That way if there's any issues with the tank in the future, I don't have to cut out the bulkheads. So the rock structure, corals and fish, spent the day, about 8 hours on the floor. Got a little bit of fresh water here. It's all plumbed up. I ended up with just going with the same format as before, and I just super glued the overflow box because it's not really crucial. It doesn't have to be waterproof. Just keep an eye on it. Alright, I'm going to start the transfer now. It's about 2 or 3 weeks since the seam failure on the bottom of my 40-gallon breeder. I've successfully transferred everything back in. For the most part, all the inhabitants, the corals and the fish, are taking it with stride. A little bit of loss in coloration in some of the acros. This gold millie in particular is pretty much completely bleached out with the exception of the polyps. But the polyps still are extended and the coral appears to be recovering. I did experience a little bit of an alkalinity fluctuation day to day. This 40-gallon tank with a approximately 15-gallon water volume sump is pretty challenging to dial in when dosing 2-part. For instance, if I allow the alkalinity container to go dry, it can drop as much as 2 DKH in one day. So I did struggle to get the alk kind of dialed in after the changes in coralline uptake. The corals were obviously stressed out, and then they would recover and kind of maybe take up a little bit more. So that was a challenge, and I really haven't had to go through something like that in a while. But as of now, everything's looking good. With the exception of my weir is super glued in place, and it's already kind of come loose. So I kind of have it just tacked on the top here on the rim. So I need to come up with some sort of a plan to temporarily plumb this tank as far as drains, and then I'm gonna just drain the water volume out of the weir and silicone the inside and allow it to dry for a few days. So that will allow me to sleep a little bit better. In the advent, if the power does fail and the weir is not holding back the water, it will cause an overflow in the sump, as I have a complete siphon set up and it's several inches below the surface. So I guess from this whole situation I can take something. Just keep your cool if something goes wrong. and just keep moving forward. At one point I was thinking about giving up on this 40, but it ended up not being that big, and just you got to take it with stride. Just keep it moving. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to follow me through my reefing journey.